in the Galilee in our illustrious kitchen cooking jelly donuts, which is a traditional Hanukkah treat. And I think the IDF is buying about 400,000 jelly donuts this year. Okay.
Okay.
So,
So we're going to make this a little non-fussy recipe because a lot of times recipes will say first you put the yeast in the water and you leave it in there 5 minutes to bloom, and yes, you can do all of that. There's nothing wrong with it, but I've also learned you can do shortcuts. So what I'm going to do is I'll tell you the ingredients as we go along. In here I have a half a cup of milk. You get in there, babe? Half a cup of milk. I've got 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. And this is at room temperature, which is cold for us. I'm going to add to this 1/4 a cup of boiling water. And what this is going to do is it's going to warm up the room temperature eggs and milk just a little bit. Okay. And that was 1/4 of hot water. In here I like to use brown sugar because it just adds more flavor. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar and 1 tablespoon of yeast. If you have any doubts, you can check it. That is Jacob. Yeah. So if you have any doubts, you can stick your finger in there, and that just feels like baby bath water, you know, something that's not really warm and not really hot. And I'm just going to make sure that I get all that unstuck, because I do want to make sure I get all of that. And what I'm going to do. So now you have altogether, you have a tablespoon of yeast, 3 tablespoons of water, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1/4 a cup of water, 1/2 a cup of milk, 1 egg, and 1 egg yolk. That's your wet ingredients. Over here in this bowl, I've got 3 scant cups of flour and a pinch of salt already mixed in together. And we're going to hold back. It calls for 3.5 cups, but when you make anything with bread, you add flour depending on the day, the humidity, all of this stuff. So it's 3 scant cups is what I have in here, and then I'll add more flour as we begin making the dough. Oh, and I forgot to put the butter in. Hang on. You want to pause that and let me get the butter?
here's a shot of our Haganah cat. Our goon cat just ran down. There he is. Hi, Tiggy. Hello. Not interested.
Okay, so here we've got the butter that I forgot to bring over, and I'm just putting that's 3.5 tablespoons more or less of butter that we're putting in with the liquids. And then I'm dumping in with the liquids the zest of 1 lemon, and it just adds flavor to the batter. It's actually a good thing. I'm just going to mix that together. Now, I want to dump this over in my big bowl. Make sure I get everything out of the bottom, because I don't want to leave any flavor behind. And then I like to use my hands because it's good to know how to do it with hands. I have a KitchenAid. I've had 100 years, but you know, if I do it with my hands, I'll always know how to do it with my hands. If I do it with the KitchenAid, I'll always be dependent on it. So we're going to dump this in here, just very unceremoniously. And then I'm going to take my whisk, and I'm just going to start mixing. And you're just going to see it's really soupy to begin with. And that's because we want it to be, because I'm going to start adding flour until the flour pulls the dough, about 1/2 cup at a time, away from the edges of the bowl. You see that it cleaned it, but that flour is not distributed throughout the batter, so I know I'm going to have to add more because I've got to get that same flour consistency throughout the dough. Okay, when I get it to clean the bowl a little bit, even though I know it's not the same consistency all the way through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it over here on my countertop where I can work it even better. Let's see, it's still sticking. stick into my hands. You don't want it to be sticky, but you don't want it to be dry. So you're just going to work it until it doesn't stick to your hands. Let me get this off my fingers. I hear the IAF, don't you, honey?
Yeah, they're high.
All right. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this about 5 minutes. And when this no longer sticks to your hand, and really we're almost there, you can see that it's not really sticking to my hand. The old stuff is, but the new stuff is not really sticking to my hand. So we're just going to work it for about 5 minutes to make the glutens develop. And you want to pause that video?
Paused.
Okay, so now we're ready to do donuts. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, about 21 out of that recipe of batter. And you want a medium heat. Let me see if I can show you. Do you see how the bubbles take just a second to come up around the grease? Okay, you want just about like that. You don't want to cook these so fast that they don't get done in the middle. That's about right there. So the other thing I would tell you is to put about, give them a chance to make a crust before you let them go so they don't stick, to put about 4, depending on the size of your pan, donuts to cook in at a time, because you don't want the temperature of your grease to drop from overloading it with product. I'm going to stand there just 1 second. I'll be right back. And what we're looking for, that's good, then they're rising up like that. What we're looking for is just that. We want them to puff up so that we can put jelly in the middle of them. We want them to be a nice golden brown. A bit more, not much. We don't want to get them too dark either. It's about right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fry off the rest of these. You can see just about right. I'm going to take these out, just make sure that they're good and done in the center. Destroy one for the sake of the others. And I'll finish frying these and we'll be back with you.
Here we are. Fast forward, you can see our pastries,
donuts. Yeah.
jelly donuts.
So what I've done with these already is I've just taken a knife and I went ahead and pierced them. So it makes them easier to fill and let some of the steam off. Now I've got this fancy schmancy thing right here, okay, and I'm going to use it. But let me just show you, you don't have to have this fancy guy. Let's just use him right here. I can, if I want to, just cut that open just like that and use a spoon and put the jelly down in there, and really, once you get that covered with your powdered sugar or your frosting, nobody's going to know that you didn't have one of these. It's just that simple. But I've got this, so I'm going to use it. So this time I'm just going to, for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and give that a good zhuzh in there like that. Okay, and we'll call him filled. Now this one, where I cut, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little bit of juice. You just want to taste in there. You don't need a lot. If you get a lot, it's going to be all about the jam and less about the donut.
This is an apricot.
This is an apricot. Yeah, let's talk about fillings here. Fillings. What we have in Israel is they love Nutella. I think the whole world loves Nutella right now. Nutella is a favorite filling. Custard is a favorite filling. A traditional filling is a jelly, And I'm told the most traditional is the apricot flavor. So that's what we have today, is we have an apricot-filled jelly donut. And babe, if you want to pause that, I'll keep filling these. And so I forgot to tell you, what you need is about a cup of whatever your filling is. If you want Nutella, if you want jam, if you want custard, you need about a cup. Now, they do everything to top these, because remember, these are a donut, and it's kind of morphed into whatever you want to put on top of it. I've seen them iced with sprinkles and decorations, and that's fine. We're going to stay traditional. I've got some here with sugar. We're going to do a few of those. And you can roll both sides if you want, but you know what? In my household, we're trying to not eat so much of what's bad for us and more of what's good with it for us. So I'm not going to roll both sides of these. I'm just going to do one. And another thing you can do, you can sprinkle a little powdered sugar on. This is our traditional Sufganiyot. But like I said, if you want to do custard, if you want to do Nutella, if you want to do icing on the outside with sprinkles and decorations, whatever makes you happy. But I would say Hag Chanukah Sameach from the Bittermans in Israel to your house.
Hag Sameach.